Okay, well, yesterday Mark was looking for some meatballs in the freezer, and it turns out that we no longer have any. So what I normally do is that I do prepare a batch of meatballs in the freezer so that we can do a quick meatball and pasta meal whenever we want. And it is probably one of the most economical meals I know how to put together. So I'm going to go through the process right now of what I do. Now we use these, say, with a meatball and linguine dish, or meatball and gnocchi dish, or meatball and spaghetti dish, whatever it is that you prefer. I have put out some of the ingredients that I use in making these meatballs, and these are an Italian style meatball, so whatever you like to do, I guess you would change up the spices and the ingredients accordingly. But personally, this is the way I've learned how to make them. So the first thing I add is a chopped onion. I've got one large chopped onion here, and I'm not above using my stand mixer for this, believe me. I'm no fan of getting my hands in the meat, and certainly have to do that in order to form the meatballs, but I don't have to do it to mix it. Okay, along with the large onion, based on the amount of meat that I'm putting in, which is about 4 pounds of ground beef, and I've got a mixture here of beef and pork, and it's mostly pork. That's for economic reasons, but pork also does add an interesting, a good flavor to a tomato sauce, a marinara sauce. So that is why I always make sure I put some pork. You could mix up all kinds of meat in there, actually. You can put goat meat. I've used goat in the past, and it makes a very mild sauce. You can use lamb, and I'm sure you can use deer, although I've never tried it. But and certainly turkey or chicken is also something that you can choose to make, but I normally use either a mixture of pork and beef, or one or the other. And in this case, I'm doing 3 pounds of pork and 1 pound of beef. And as I said, it could be one or the other totally. It really doesn't matter. And to this I'm adding 2 eggs. Around a tablespoon of salt, and you could add pepper, and you could add hot pepper flakes, and since I'm not a fan of hot pepper, Mark gets to add his hot pepper flakes after the fact, which is fairly common as well. The other spice that I make sure I add is parsley, and I just scoop a ton of parsley in there. Could also put garlic powder. I think I will add some garlic powder. And you can also shake up some peppercorn. You can ground up some peppercorns and put put black pepper in there if you like. And there's my garlic powder. I always add garlic to a sauce when I make it, so I also add parsley. I also add all these ingredients. So this is nothing strange. When I go to make the sauce, all these ingredients are added again. Now, the other thing that I do add is Parmesan cheese, and this is actually freshly grated Parmesan cheese. The only way I buy them, I buy it in a brick, and you can put this in to taste. A couple of tablespoons are probably fine. Once again, you do add this to your pasta sauce after the fact. And finally, some breadcrumbs. Now, if you were going to can this, you would not add breadcrumbs. Okay? Because you just don't add fillers when you're doing canning. So I'm just going to start with shaking some in there, and I'm going to mix this up and determine by the texture if I need more in order to hold a meatball together. So I'm going to put this on the mixer right now, and I'm going to mix it up. Okay, this is okay, but I can add a few more breadcrumbs if I wanted to make it firmer. I think I'll add just a little bit more. I don't want it to be too much bread there, but I also don't want it too moist. Okay, those of you that have watched me do this in the past know that now's the time that I form these into meatballs, and I lay them out on a plastic cutting board and put them in the freezer that way without wrapping them at first, so that they do freeze solid and don't smush up when I finally put them in freezer bags. Okay, so let's free that up first. And of course, now we just go through the process of making meatballs whatever size you like. And you can make them medium, you can make them large, it's really up to you. I prefer just pretty much an average size. And so I'll just continue along this until I have this all done. Now what happens here is that you have ready-made food, so that rather than, you know, I started doing this because I really didn't like making it individually every single time. So this way I have, I don't know how many meals ready. I'll count them when I'm done, but approximately I think we use about, between Mark and I, about 8 meatballs per meal. So sometimes he wants more, so he'll cook more, but on average he'll pull out about 8, and that's what you can do. Pull out what you're going to use and leave the rest in the freezer for the next time, and they're already ready. And yes, yesterday he was looking for meatballs, and we had loose ground beef in there, and I said, well, we can make it, and he just didn't want to do that. He wanted it ready. So today I went out and bought some fresh meat, because once it's frozen you can't really refreeze it. You have to cook it first. So at this point I just wanted to make sure that I have meatballs for him for whenever he feels like it. Like I normally always have meatballs available in this house. As I said, it's one of the most economic meals I can prepare. It costs very little. Mind you, this day and age, I don't think anything's that little. This amount of 4 pounds of meat, and it is not lean ground beef. It's regular ground beef and regular pork, and I think I paid about $10 for the 4 pounds total. So, but considering, I know when I buy something like ribs, I pay a lot more, and it's going to cost a lot more than $10 for one meal, where this one here will at least do about 3 meals, I believe, maybe more. We'll see when I've completed. Now, of course, yes, there's the tomatoes that I have in jars, and then there's the pasta, which either I buy in dried in bags or I make homemade, and all that adds up, but it's still, as I say, one of the most economic meals I can make. The meat is usually the most costly factor. Of course, chili is another one of those that, depending on how much meat you put in it, how expensive that can be, but it certainly isn't just beans that we put in chili either. So as you can see, I just lay this all out on this cutting board, and this cutting board will go in the freezer as is, like this, and eventually I will just scrape them off and put them into a vacuum sealer bag when they are frozen solid. And I think in most cases I need more than one cutting board. And as you can see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So yeah, easily, by the looks of it, 4 or 5 meals out of this. And tonight, if Mark wants pasta and meatballs, it'll be available for him. If he decides he feels like something else, he can do that as well. Five, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so there's 32 there. I'm going to wash my hands, get another board, and put this one in the freezer. Ready to go in the freezer and to take out just a few at a time as we want them.